podcast all about theater, from the page to the stage, from the players to the playhouses. We want to cover everything that we can to inform you, educate you, entertain you about theater and live performing arts here in the city of Detroit, around the country, and throughout the world. And we're here today with my co-host, Diane Mathis.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're so fortunate to have with us our interviewee who brings with her today some international experience, and so we're really excited about getting into her story in theater, her experiences in theater, and hopefully you will gain as much from it as I expect to gain, and I've already gained just from reading about her and hearing about her story. Welcome today, Jennifer George. Welcome to Curtain Call.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
And we're so happy to have you, and especially with the experience that you brought, that you bring to the table with you today. So happy to have you. So we're going to get right into it.
Okay.
My usual question is usually, what was it? What sparked theater in you, and at what age did you get hooked on the performing arts?
Okay. Well, I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
When I was 5 years old, I told my mom that I wanted to be on Sesame Street.
Okay.
And my mom said, well, we'd have to move to New York,
Hmm.
and you're going to have to leave Grandma and Baba. And I said, oh, okay, then maybe I won't go on Sesame Street. But that was like the first time as a small child that I thought I wanted to be a performer.
Hmm.
And then I totally left that idea behind until really I was at Wayne State in
Okay.
1992. No, I'm sorry, 1987.
Okay.
And I was undecided as a major there. And I took an acting class. And the acting teacher said, why don't you do a Bachelor of Fine Arts here at Wayne?
Hmm.
And so I thought, yeah, that sounds good to me. And then I committed to theater. It must have been 1987, 1988.
Okay. So you have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from Wayne State University.
I do, yes.
Great, great, great. It's so heartening to be able to have someone on who's actually been taught the basic fundamentals of theater and know the ins and outs of theater. A lot of people we get on are actors and actresses that don't have the degree, and so it's especially heartening to have someone who has had a degree and not only had a degree but worked in the field of theater. It's a difficult field to
It
make a
is.
living in.
It is. Yep.
Some people are able to go on and have great careers,
Absolutely.
like your Samuel L. Jacksons and Taraji's, and just people who got a degree, Felicia Rashad, people like that who get their degrees and go on to have great careers in theater. But for the great majority of us, we may do a lot of community theater, local theater, educational theater, and probably end up teaching.
Yes.
And some of us actually become writers and
Yes.
directors. Uh, through your educational experiences, what were the outstanding things that stood out to you in theater as you got your education? What intrigued you most? Like for me, it was lights and that sort of thing.
Yeah. For me, I wanted to be an actor at that
Me
time.
too.
And so acting was a big part of the
Hmm.
curriculum there. But I have to say, what was great about being at Wayne State in those years
Hmm.
was both the undergrad and the grad program had a repertory theater
Hmm.
um, set up that was the students entirely participated in.
Hmm.
So for the undergrad, we were at the Bonstell,
Right.
and we could go to the Hillberry studio and do shows, and
Hmm.
then the MFA students were in the Hillberry.
Okay.
So we had the experience during the school year of
Hmm.
what it was like to do 7 plays a season. If you weren't in the play, you were backstage,
Hmm.
you were in costumes, you were stage managing,
Hmm.
and we had to run like that for 4 years,
Okay.
and that was really good. And the teachers there at the time really wanted us to have the professional experience.
Hmm.
And part of that was discipline. So if you didn't have your little, um, your little name tag hooked by the time you were supposed to be at the theater, you were out of the show. And there were 10 other people who wanted to take your place. So
Hmm.
I think it was the first time for me at Wayne where I really learned that because of the way the program was set up at the time,
Hmm.
that discipline is a part of the craft. And I think it just it was a great experience for me to have that. I
Hmm.
wasn't a very good actor after 4 years, even I will admit, but I still loved the field, and
Hmm.
I loved my experience there.
Okay, was Von Washington there?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
Leah Smith was there at the time I was
Okay.
there,
I just
who
saw
is
Leah
now head
Saturday.
of the Detroit Rep,
Hmm.
and Henri Franklin is a graduate of Wayne, but I was teaching there when he was a student there, so
Okay.
not I'm much older than Henri.
Okay.
He's a different generation than I am.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned discipline. That's an important factor in theater that a lot of people don't take to heart. Particularly when you're doing community theater. I had so many experiences with people who didn't understand that if you take the role, you need to be here to rehearse.
That's right.
And when you get here to rehearse, you need to be focused and disciplined in what we're doing to prepare you for the stage. And a lot of people didn't understand that you need to come to rehearsal. So
Absolutely.
people would say, "Oh, I got to do this. I've got to do that. I can't come tonight." And that's discipline. You got to have that discipline uh, in theater. So I'm glad you brought that up. So Wayne State was the beginning, uh, but you say you weren't a very good actor. Well, that's probably somebody else's opinion to round out. But um, what carried on?
So after I graduated from Wayne State, I was going to do a 1 year program in France where I worked at Euro Disney in Paris.
Okay.
And so it was a work experience program where you would just exchange. It was an
Hmm.
entry level position.
Hmm.
But the thing is that in, it got you a visa to be in France.
Hmm.
And once I got to Paris, I loved it so much that my contract was done with Disney, I got a student visa and went back to France to study more theater.
Oh,
I
okay.
stayed on the path. I stayed on the theater path, and I went to a private acting school there called the Cours Florent, and that was a place that a lot of French actors passed through there. It was
Hmm.
it's kind of like how the Actors Studio was to New York. This place was like Paris's Actors Studio.
Okay.
And then I graduated from there, and then I had a French boyfriend, and I wanted to stay a little
Okay.
longer.
Hmm.
And his sister said, "Well, if you go to the Sorbonne, it's free, and you can just pay the inscription fee and study theater at the Sorbonne." So, motivated by my French boyfriend's sister, I
Okay.
decided to,
And the French boyfriend,
and
of
the
course.
French boyfriend, I decided to stay there and study a little bit more. So I spent a long time being a student. However, at the Sorbonne, I kind of wanted to focus more on writing and directing.
Hmm.
And my acting skill did improve
Hmm.
greatly, but I was more open to writing and directing at that time.
Okay. Okay. And what led you in that direction?
Uh, I think there were directing workshops
Hmm.
that I studied, and I just thought it was fascinating,
Hmm.
like the whole craft of directing, and similarly with writing, we had creative writing
Hmm.
for the stage, and I just really enjoyed it,
Hmm.
and I thought it would give me an opportunity to wear more hats, as they say.
Hmm.
So just doing fascinating work,
Okay.
really.
So, uh, for theater in France and Europe in general, were you able to travel outside of Paris? outside of France
Um,
to do theater?
no, not really. I mean, I really stayed in Paris proper pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a very vibrant theater scene in
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Paris. It's, I mean, I can't even, there must be over 100 theaters, professional theaters, theaters everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
doing all kinds of shows. And
Wow.
I did see theater outside of Paris, but this was, I was still actually a student at Wayne. I did a year abroad,
Mm-hmm.
and French was my minor. So
Okay.
the the summer abroad, actually, sorry, it wasn't a year, it was just for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
The professors who organized that took us to see plays in the south of France,
Mm-hmm.
where they have a huge summer theater festival called the Festival of Avignon. And I got to see a lot of plays and shows that were there. And so I did see theater outside of France at the Festival Avignon,
Mm-hmm.
but mainly the whole time I was a student, we stayed just within Paris seeing shows. And
Oh, well.
I did some extra work in films that were shooting in Paris,
Mm-hmm.
but never really a big role. So
Okay. What was still with 100
But
theaters?
what a great experience.
Right.
My goodness.
yeah,
Right.
it was really the time of my life.
I
I
can
have to say.
imagine.
I don't know. I think my parents must have thought I was like drinking champagne and, I don't know, partying at fashion shows or something. But really, I was a very serious student.
Mhm.
And like there'd be two teachers I wanted to work with. So I'd enroll in one class, but go to the other one too.
Mhm.
And then I remember my directing teacher said, I went to give you a grade and you're not on my roster. And I said, I know. I'm actually registered in the other one, but I wanted to work with you also. So I
Wow.
really had an opportunity to really be a student and really learn from a lot of great people and just be in a really vibrant theater community. Even as I was just a student, but also what's lovely in France as a student, you get student tickets to every show has a student, ticket option.
Okay.
So you
wow,
can see
great.
a bunch of good theater
Mm.
for not very much money.
Okay. Were any shows that stood out during that time that you saw or that was able to participate in some form?
Oh gosh. Okay. I mean, this was 30 years ago. So let's see. Yeah, at least. So I was, I mean, the last show that I saw the last time I was in France was Cyrano de Bergerac
Okay.
Oh, wow.
at the Comédie Française.
Mm-hmm.
And that really was an amazing production. But I'm pressed to remember
That's okay.
the rest of the shows.
Okay, that's okay. Word about you being an American there in France. Was there a significant a number of Americans there along with you or participating?
No, I was like at the Cool Florent. I think I was the only American,
Okay.
and then there was one other guy who was Canadian,
Okay.
and then the rest were all French students. And then at the Sorbonne, similar, there was me as an American, and I had one friend who was also American.
Okay.
She came from Kansas, and she stayed in France. She still lives there
Okay.
today. But it was a very French scene.
Okay.
Not too many international students.
Okay. I was wondering because I know that in the history of African Americans, a lot of our major entertainers at some
Sure.
point in time
Mhm.
moved to France,
Sure.
moved to Paris.
Josephine Baker.
Josephine Baker,
And the horn player, I want to say Charlie.
Mingus,
No, I'm thinking
Charlie
of him.
Parker?
Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker, Yachtenberg Parker, yeah.
Yes.
James Baldwin.
yes.
I mean, it was like there was a sense of freedom and to practice in their craft and their art without dealing with the inherent
discrimination.
discriminations that come with being other than European American.
Correct.
And we're going to get into that a little bit with
Okay.
you in a little while
Great.
about one of your works in particular. So when you came back to Detroit, I almost said Detroit. I do that sometime. I don't know why, but I know it's Detroit.
Mhm.
What did you jump right into?
Well, to be honest, I thought Detroit was just going to be a pit stop,
A
and I
pit
was going to
stop.
go to New York.
Okay.
And I went to New York, and I realized I was not really prepared for New York. Even though in my mind it was a logical progression,
Mm-hmm.
Paris, New York. Um, when I got to New York, I just didn't see starting there again.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see all the possibilities that I had if I just went back to Detroit. And
Okay.
so I I don't know. I spent some time there and then realized no, I need to be back where I feel grounded
Mm-hmm.
because going to another country and not having any of your network with you
Mm-hmm.
demands a certain amount. It takes a toll on a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was kind of still in culture shock from leaving France. And I didn't have, I just knew like I needed to be a place where I felt grounded and connected.
Mm-hmm.
And both of my parents went to Wayne State, and I grew up partly in Detroit and partly in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that there was a possibility I could teach at Wayne
Mm-hmm.
um, and do shows in Detroit. And I decided to come back to the city. So once I got here, I did just that. I kind of went to Wayne State and taught there for I can't remember. I want to say about 5 years in the early
Okay.
2000s,
Okay.
and I was teaching intro to theater and acting for non majors, just as an adjunct faculty member.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started teaching the same classes at OCC. Started teaching a little French at Marygrove,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, one of my students at Wayne worked at an art gallery on Michigan Avenue that doesn't exist anymore, but at the time it was the Zeitgeist Gallery and Performance Space.
Okay.
And I had an idea for this um, original show
Mm-hmm.
centered on Hamlet, and they said they were open to letting me do it there,
Okay.
and they would produce the show.
Okay. I want to talk about that in just a
Wow.
moment. You're watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world, bringing you live streaming entertainment in a number of different areas. But today we're talking about theater. This show is all about theater. So would you please just give us a thumbs up, a like, comments, let your family and friends know what we're doing here on WJZZ Cool TV with Curtain Call, because we want to educate, we want to entertain, we want to inform, we want to enlighten, we want to build a cultural awareness of the performing arts here in the city of Detroit, across the country, and internationally. So you're watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. Now, Hamlet. I was reading up in your bio that you did Hamlet Machine slash Hamlet.
Yeah.
Interpret what does that mean? Because we all know Hamlet is a Shakespearean tragedy,
Absolutely.
Yes.
and so tell us about that.
So, one of the directing workshops that I had in Paris
Mm-hmm.
focused on the work of this postmodernist guy called Heiner Mueller,
Okay.
and he wrote Hamlet Machine,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very strange short text that he kind of takes like the themes in Hamlet
Mm-hmm.
and modified them to his own world. And
Okay.
he was experiencing like unrest in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what the play Hamlet Machine was about.
Mm-hmm.
And I had worked on his theater in France. So my big idea was to take some of the scenes from Shakespeare's play
Mm-hmm.
and Mueller's play Hamlet Machine
Mm-hmm.
and fuse them together. And then I wrote a few scenes that I just wrote from my imagination to
Okay.
kind of glue them together, kind of like
Transitions.
the mortar that would hold those
Okay.
two pieces together.
Okay.
And it was kind of an adventure because no one had ever really done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really know how it was going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned out that there was a reviewer from the Detroit Free Press who came on opening night,
Mm-hmm.
and he really liked the show. And then it ended up being rather successful for that small
Right.
little theater.
Right. I'm reading here where it was nominated for best play and best director.
Yes, yes, I wrote it and directed it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was an honor at the time to be. It was the first play that I did after coming out of school,
Mm-hmm.
so I told my parents like I wasn't just messing around.
Mm-hmm.
That so that really encouraged me that he liked it and wrote a
Mhm.
nice review, and then I was nominated for best play and best director. We didn't win, but it is an honor to be nominated, as
Absolutely.
people say. So
Absolutely.
it was a great experience
Okay.
professionally, and then behind the scenes. It wasn't a great experience, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was a
Oh.
little friction between the producer and I, and it left me kind of crestfallen about doing theater, like what happened on the personal side. And I guess what I could say was that I was naive to the fact that I didn't have a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were going on, I give you my word, I take your word.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned that that's not a good way to go. You really need a contract for everything you do.
Absolutely.
How well we know about
How
that.
well we know about that.
I mean, if you're doing theater, if you're doing music, if you're doing any type of performing arts, and you're dealing with producers and promoters, it's best to always have a written contract. That's just general information that anybody who's doing theater should have, because based on what you're just telling me now and my own personal experiences,
Mhm.
it can be very trying
Mhm.
and it can be a real turnoff,
Mhm.
uh, especially when you're trying to make a living and advance, well, working with your art and your craft. And that you bringing that up just brings back memories for me as well as to what that's like. Going in thinking, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to,
You
we're
have
going to.
all these high hopes,
Hmm.
and somebody does not see your vision, but they benefit from your vision.
Hmm.
That's unfortunate.
Right, and it can be disheartening, but you got to just work through it. Put it behind you and keep on going. What came next?
So next, I want to say, so that was like 2003, 2004. In 2006 and 2007, after, I don't know, just a series of events, talking with friends, I will never forget Barack Obama announcing his candidacy for the president of the United States.
Hmm.
And I had just decided that I was going to tackle my own identity because I am a multi ethnic person.
Hmm.
I'm half Middle Eastern and half American. My
Hmm.
mom was Polish and Irish. That I just felt I was going to really, when I was in New York, I was watching PBS and I was watching the documentaries on the civil rights movement.
Hmm.
And I was really inspired. And I thought, had I been around at that time, I would have been an activist.
Hmm.
And just a multitude of things came together, and I decided to write my own, I'm going to call it activist theater play.
Okay.
And it turned out to be mixed.
Okay.
So that was a play that I wrote and directed and produced the first time. We did it was, I think it was 2007 at the Bull Family YMCA Theater. And then subsequently, so we ran the show there for, I can't remember if it was 3 weekends or 4 weekends.
Hmm.
And we got a lot of good press, but we didn't get very many people coming to see the play.
Hmm.
Part of it was that it debuted in February, which is like, we had the frozen tundra, the
Hmm.
polar vortex, and it was really hard to get people to come to the theater in the midst of that.
Hmm.
But also, I wondered if the message was too early or too taboo. But then we toured it. We kept the crew together,
Hmm.
and every year we tried to get like a different location to produce the show. So we did it at our church at Renaissance Unity.
Mhm.
We did it at Marygrove Theater twice, actually.
Mhm.
I can't think of where else there's probably another production that I'm forgetting about, but
Mhm.
we felt like the message was important, and we wanted to do it as much as we could.
Very powerful message, Gina.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was reading. I don't know if it's here. That you overheard s- some basically negative, uh, some negative words given about Middle Eastern people, and that was
Yeah, I mean, I it was the first time that I really realized on a very personal level. I mean, I, as I said, I grew up in the city.
Mhm.
I got on a scholarship to go to Friends School. So
Mhm.
my personal experience from kindergarten almost up through fourth grade was that I was always in a diverse background. So diversity wasn't like shocking to me. That
Mhm.
was always my experience. But what was really shocking to me on a personal level is I was at Wayne in the bookstore, and this lady, we were in the Gulf War, and this lady was saying like, "Oh, I want to spit on the Middle Easterners when I see them on campus." And I was like, "Wait a second, I'm Middle Eastern. Does she want to spit on me?" It was the first time in a very personal way I realized that people can hate you without knowing you
Knowing
Mhm.
any.
for your identity,
Mhm.
and that really sat with me. And and I don't really, from the feedback that I've been given, I don't really appear to fit the Middle Eastern stereotype.
Mhm.
So people felt comfortable talking about Middle Easterners because they didn't
Know that
recognize
you
that
were.
that was my background.
Yes.
Mhm.
I've
That's
had
it.
people come up to me and say, "Well, you're not Muslim, are you?" Kind of, and I would be like, "Well, what is it about? What are you about to say
Mhm.
about, Muslims?" And my family happens to be Christian. They were part of a minority called
Yeah,
Chaldeans,
Dean's right.
but you know, the Middle Eastern culture is largely comprised of Muslim people, and I just thought
Mhm.
like, why would someone preface that unless they were about to say something,
Mhm. A lot of people don't
disparaging?
understand that there is a distinction between Arabs and Muslims
Yes.
and Chaldeans.
Yes.
That the Chaldeans are Christian. Are
Mhm.
Christian.
Mhm.
Um, uh,
Some of them are Catholic.
hmm
So
Yeah,
I went to school with a
it's
lot
hard.
of Chaldeans that
It's
are Catholic.
it's hard to keep track of in like
hmm
the whole Middle Eastern realm because it's just there's a lot of diversity. There are
hmm
Lebanese people who are Christian. There are, so you can't. It's really hard to generalize. People will
Right.
say, "I'm not. I speak Arabic, but I'm not Arabic."
hmm
People really identify Arabic as people from Saudi Arabia. There's a
hmm
whole, even I sometimes can't keep it straight, and
hmm
that's my ethnicity.
hmm
But anyways, just to say,
Yeah,
it's
we
complex.
unfortunately we live in a society that has been conditioned to judge people based on
Something they
ethnicity,
heard
on
or something
color,
they heard.
and religion. You
Right,
know,
right.
religion has always been
Mhm.
a basis of contention throughout the history of mankind. Really,
Absolutely.
from the beginning, all stemming to the three major religions, all derived from Abraham,
That's
Mhm.
right.
and but you got your Islamic, and you got your Christian, you got your Jews. I mean, you got your Hindus and the other two, Confucianism and
That's right.
Jainism. But the three primary religions all derived from
The Abrahamic
Abraham,
tradition, yeah.
and for some reason there's been conflict from day one, and
And
it,
it's
it,
so
it hasn't gone away.
unnecessary.
It's so prevalent today, right here, right now, and that's why I really wanted to get into the nuts and bolts of your play mixed, um, so that you can tell us about. Or we now understand part of the motivation, um, and the fact that you want to honor your that cultural aspect of who you are. So the play. Give us a
So the play, and Diane is a cast member of the
Mhm.
play. She had a lovely part. So the play is really unconventional. First of
Mhm.
all, the form of the writing is trifold. What does it mean? It means I took three plot lines that are very different, and I braided them together into like a big braid. And one of the plots is the part that Diane uh, plays a role in, was a historical plot. There, it tells the story of three generations of women. So Diane played the grandmother, and then there was her daughter and her granddaughter, and it's talking about identity in the post-slavery South, and secrets unravel, and people confront each other about things that had happened, and it I don't know really, I don't know where that came from. In a way it came from a dream, but in a way there's also a really big part of myself written into that, um, into the psychology of what's happening with the parent and child. There are some mysteries in that storyline, like, why do I look different than you? Who was my father? Why did the grandmother raise me and not the parent? So those are the questions that really, I call that part of the play, Generations of Women. And then it's juxtaposed against a plot line that it consists of monologues of people who have uh, either a biracial or multi-ethnic identity. So we're speaking about people who really have one black parent and one white parent, and they're asked to navigate the world with these two identities. And I find that people who are biracial or multi-ethnic don't have a very big voice in when these discussions about identity, discrimination, and I feel like people who are biracial have a special privileged perspective because they're a part of both groups.
It's true.
And so,
and not just biracial, but bicultural
right,
as well.
right, bicultural,
Absolutely.
multi-ethnic. One of the monologues is totally autobiographical. It's about me growing up, being asked, "Are you American or are you Chaldean?" But I wanted to speak for people who grew up with parents who look different, and how they interpreted their own identity, how they navigated through discrimination, their family secrets, the challenges, and also the joys of, being who they are. So I wanted to give a voice to that. And then the third plot line are group scenes. I call them the ensemble scenes. And half of those are written for your subconscious. And I didn't figure that out right away, but I realized, like, everything we take in is taken in by our subconscious. So, what is it to write for an audience's subconscious? It's to hear a little girl scream, "Daddy!" It's going to take you back to a place where your mind doesn't filter it, your intellect doesn't filter it. It goes right to a place in you, in your heart, that you remember being a child and calling for daddy, who in a lot of cases wasn't there. So some of the scenes, and I need to do a little bit of rewriting because I realized some of the scenes in the ensemble set, they don't really come across to an audience. I was taking them from exercises that actors did in my theater training experience and interpreting them into the play. And some of them just didn't translate. So I think I'd like to edit those out if I reboot the production. But some of them I realized, no, this is really good. Even though it's very unstructured, I want to try to speak to the audience's subconscious.
Okay. I think let me do this because I missed my point, my mark there. You're watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV. the coolest TV station in the world, streaming to you live on YouTube. So please give us a comment. Tell us what you think. Are you watching today's show? Let us know. Uh, Give us a call in. Tell your family and your friends so that we can spread the word about cultural arts and the performing arts here in the city of Detroit. And we've got a very interesting discussion going on today. So, again, you're watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. So interesting, and during this time, specifically during this time, like today, and, and right now, America is in need of a cultural awareness, a cultural awakening, a cultural understanding, because we're finding ourselves in a situation where uh, culture is being purposefully divided, uh, and as Americans, is contradictory to what America is. America, the melting pot, the home of the semi-retired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. And what do we have? We have purposefully someone trying to divide us for the sake of power. And I think one of the things that we need to have to overcome that assault on our diversity, I think making diversity a bad word in the first place is just
No.
nonsensical. How do
I
you make
agree.
diversity, equity, and inclusion a,
A bad
something
thing.
a bad
That's
thing
it.
when it's
It makes
absolutely
no
not?
sense at all.
But with a play like Mix, it sounds like it's time to have that reproduced. Um,
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I like I said, I wanted to do some editing to it. I did submit it to the Detroit Repertory Theater,
mhm.
but it wasn't accepted for this go round. They said it could still be possible in the future. It is a challenging play. We have 12 actors.
Mhm.
So what I found, I submitted it to another theater company. This is way back when we first started doing it,
Mhm.
and they just kind of said we can't do a show with 12 actors because we
Yeah.
can't. It's a big cast to pay,
It is.
and I would like to have it up again. Uh, I just don't know when or where that's going to be. I connected with some old childhood friends that I grew up with in the Cass Corridor.
Mhm.
The woman I connected with now lives in Chicago, and her sister in law, she told me, has a relationship with Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago. So I thought, okay, well, if I get motivated, I can perhaps reach out to my friend and send her some texts about the show and see if they would be interested in workshopping it or
Mhm.
producing it possibly. I do think that the message is
Oh, it's so
more
important.
relevant than
It's
ever.
Now, for
absolutely
sure.
more relevant
Jen,
than
that's
ever.
exactly why I wanted you to come and be interviewed because the impact of that show for me was so amazing. I mean, I've been in so many different productions, but that production was like growing up in a area where I lived through the 60s and I saw the dogs and the hoses and people being killed because they were just trying to live as American people. And I said, this message has to be seen and heard still. You can't just leave it and hold it and keep it because it still is relevant to what's going on right now. It was relevant then, it's relevant now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope we have a chance to reboot it. I actually wrote a Mix 2.0 like around 2016 when Donald Trump was first in office because of something that happened in Royal Oak
Mhm.
where these two young students came into their cafeteria at lunchtime the day after he was elected, and the whole school yelled, "Build that wall!" And it went on CNN, and the students cried, and they had to leave the school. And so I amended it, and I don't think you've had I haven't shared the Mix 2.0
No, you have
text,
not. You have
but it
not.
does talk about the Trump effect
Mhm.
and what Americans were afraid of under the first Donald Trump presidency.
Mhm.
And I actually, added the clip from CNN about the young students at that Royal Oak Middle School who were yelled out of the school basically to chants of "Build the Wall" when they were Latino or Latina students, and you know, I don't know, it just really
But
bothered me.
I don't understand. Why would the students say build that wall when they're here?
Yeah, I
Mm,
mean, I guess it was. I mean, to
It's
me,
it's
That's
that inherent
insanity.
uh, well, racism is all.
Were
I mean,
they
that you no other
Latino
way.
students
yeah,
themselves?
yeah,
So you're going to say build the wall to keep others from coming here, and you're here.
right. It doesn't. I mean, it just goes to show like how much students. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I think I wonder sometimes. I guess what I'd like to say is that students really absorb what's going on in the parents' household.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the parents aren't really aware of it, the fact that this was a middle school and the students at the middle school were so much aware of Donald Trump's running on immigration and those kind of things and build the wall
Mm-hmm.
you can still look it up. You can Google CNN
Mm-hmm.
students in Royal Oak build the
Insanity.
wall. But there were other incidents. Like I wrote a scene in the Mix 2.0 that I at the time was teaching at OCC, and I had Muslim students who wore a headscarf every day to class come in crying because they were afraid that, with the
They would be
Muslim
attacked.
ban.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the students said, my mom told me not to wear the head covering because she was afraid I would be targeted because of that. And when I saw my students crying
Mm-hmm.
about Donald Trump being elected and all of the hate,
Mm-hmm.
and when you watch TV and you see what's happening, but when it's people and they're coming to you and they're so affected, so
Mhm.
anyway, so Mix 2.0 has a little bit of the first Trump presidency measured in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure if I reproduced it if I would keep that. I'm not sure. We would have to workshop it and see. Now there's so much more.
I was just about to say
Oh my
there's so
God.
much
It's so
more.
much worse.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
there's so much
it
more that
is.
you can pull from, and
But
I mean, with what's going on with immigration now, that's just pure cruelty.
right, it is.
Yeah.
I almost don't. Well, first of all, I do have a concern that I don't know if I want to go too political
Mhm.
in that direction, for a number of reasons. Or if I did, I would create maybe a whole nother piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the power in mixed is really speaking for multi-ethnic, biracial, and
Absolutely.
African
And that's what this
American
whole country is based upon.
characters.
Right. I think the opportunity to, I feel you on not wanting to go too political, but I think the opportunity, because life, theater being a reflection of life, and art being
Yes,
a
absolutely.
reflection of art, life period, and life being art, if you can easily uh, influence and develop young minds by giving them the truth.
Right.
I mean, if mix has the truth in it,
Yes, it
and
does.
then positive aspects uh, throughout, then it's worthwhile to do. I mean, that's what art is.
Mhm.
Art has always influenced society. Societies wouldn't be so-called civilized without art.
Right,
So,
absolutely. So I do want to say like a couple things just to wrap that up, or just to close that up. I feel like, oh, now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, this is
okay.
terrible.
yeah, take your
It'll
time.
come back to me, I hope. Okay, let's just we'll come back to it because
Okay.
I can't think of what I was going to
Well,
say.
well, like I said, a play like that is a teachable play, and if you take the opportunity to teach your audience.
Oh, it came back to me.
Okay.
So I was reading National Geographic, and they have this article called "The Article in Black and White,"
Mm-hmm.
and according to one of the articles in that magazine, by 2026 there will be 26 million biracial and multi-ethnic people in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're observing in this administration is the backlash to those facts.
Yeah.
And they're trying to eliminate the fact that, you know, humanity is moving in a direction
Mhm.
where more people have multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multiracial identities.
Mhm.
But you can't, like, it's like they're trying to stop the universe from expanding.
Right.
It's not going to be possible.
Right.
But I think the current political climate is an attempt to try to stop that.
That's exactly it.
Yes. Their
It's like trying to
idea,
stop a. Go ahead.
their idea is to get rid of the people of color, and they're doing it with the educational system. They're doing it with the food programs and health insurance. So if you can make the masses of people disappear because they won't have anything to keep them living, that's where that mentality is right now. It's a sad situation, but that's where it's going. It's unfortunate, but you cannot stop what God has put together. You cannot make something that God has already put together go away. I don't care how much money you have. I mean, you can think in your head that you can make it happen, but it's not going to happen.
There's this great fear of the loss of power because of the
Yes.
changing demographic.
That's it.
There's this great fear that Europeans who managed to control every aspect of America from day one
Hmm.
are going to lose that power
Mhm.
because of there will become a minority,
Hmm.
and the people of color and diversity will be the majority.
That's
Absolutely.
their
Um,
fear.
That's their fear.
That's right.
And right now, they're lashing out to protect that power,
I agree.
you know, and to push
It's-
back on that fear.
I find it like a very misguided fear. I mean, like most fears. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
There are rational fears and there are irrational fears, right?
Mhm.
But this goes back to the unity teaching, really.
Mhm.
And I'm going to pull on that a little bit
Mhm.
because RU, Renaissance Unity, was such a great place.
Yes, it
One of the
was.
things that I learned was that, you know, the difference between a lack mindset and an abundance mindset.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And if people were really in an abundance mindset, that fear wouldn't exist.
Right.
You know, it's like there is enough for everyone. There's no need to get rid of any people.
Mhm.
It's not like when Bill Gates became a millionaire, the universe said, oh, sorry, we can't make any more millionaires because Bill Gates has already achieved the status.
Mhm.
The truth is that abundance is unlimited, prosperity is
Is unlimited.
unlimited.
That's right.
There is enough for everyone that people can create their own. No
Mhm.
one's going to take it away from you.
Right.
And it's just an outdated paradigm, it's an outdated mindset, and it's a lie
Mhm.
when you talk about like spiritual truths.
Mhm.
And I'm going into a little bit of woo woo,
Mhm.
you know, for most people don't really want to talk about that kind of mindset. But to me, I feel like people with a lack mindset are the people who are in that fear.
Right. They're the one who's in that fear, and we have to be about a business of educating the masses because that is part of the assault.
Mhm.
Dumb down,
Mhm.
you know, promote
Mhm.
ignorance.
Mhm.
Keep
Keep them from elevating themselves. That's
well,
crazy.
promote ignorance in order to maintain the narrative.
Right.
And if the narrative says
And the
that this group
control.
of people should always be in power,
Mhm.
and this is what we've always been in power,
Mhm.
and no one else had anything to do with it,
Mhm.
that's going to be the narrative they're trying to promote. Our position is it's going to happen anyway. Like you said, you can't push against that Mississippi River flowing into the Gulf.
That's right.
So you've got to you either adapt or it's going to be ugly, and right now it's ugly.
It
And I
is.
think us as artists can take the opportunity to use our crafts to help educate and change that mindset. Uh, I wanted to talk about education with you. Again, I missed it again. You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world, with Curtain Call. It's all about theater. So tell your family and friends about Curtain Call. I wanted to talk to you about some of your methodology in teaching theater, but we're just about out of time.
Already?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah. We
goodness.
got kind of political today. I don't want to call it political. I'd say it was more socially conscious
Absolutely.
discussion today.
Okay.
But you can't. I mean, theater is a socially conscious culture,
Yes. It
and
is.
it always has been from the shakes from
Absolutely.
tragedy, the Greek tragedies, the Shakespearean tragedies, the
That's it.
comedies.
That's
It's
it.
all about the morality of life. I mean, they're all morality plays,
Yes.
basically.
Right.
Especially Shakespeare.
Right,
Everything
right,
is about
right.
morality.
And
Absolutely.
so, right, tell us what you're doing now and what's coming next.
Uh, Personally, I'm in a weird transition period
Mhm.
right now. I'm not teaching at the college level at all. I took the month of July off to finish a project that I've been talking about. I don't know if you're an artist, you kind of can relate to this. It's like, I'm going to finish that project I started,
Right.
so finally I cleared everything off the table and I'm taking the month of July to write again.
Okay.
And this is a screenplay. It will be for a feature film, or it may have to be in two films, like
Mm.
part one and part 2.
Hmm.
And it's a French ghost story.
Okay.
And so very different, and all takes place in France. It's there's a medieval love story, a ghost, a legend, and then a modern love story where they all kind of converge together.
Okay.
So that's keeping me, my imagination is working on that. And professionally, I am doing some freelancing with language classes and just substitute teaching right now. But I'm really hoping to finish the film by the fall
Hmm.
and then find out what comes next, because I have not written a screenplay for film before.
Yeah, I've just
So,
ventured into that myself.
so I thought, well, get it on paper and then take the next steps. So we'll see. So that's what
Okay.
I'm up to now.
All right. Well, great. It's been great having you.
It's been
Thank
a
you for
pleasure.
coming on.
What
Thank
a
you for
great
the
discussion.
connection, Diane.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Thank
Diane.
you, Jen.
And
I'm so
so-
glad to reconnect with you.
Same.
Absolutely.
Great. And we're looking forward to seeing Mixed somewhere, sometime in the next year or
I
two.
certainly hope.
I hope so. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you for being here.
My
Ladies
pleasure.
and gentlemen, thank you for watching Curtain Call. Have a good evening.
I can't believe that was a whole hour. Well,
50
pretty
minutes.
much.
We're going to give us
Yeah, it went by so fast. My goodness.
Is that a wrap? Well, if the cameras are still running, we're still here.
We're still here.
We're
still
still
here.
here waiting on the wrap. And it's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you
It's
so
been a
much.
pleasure. I'm excited. I want to see it now.
Well, whatever you decide to do, Jen, I'm
Okay.
excited for you because
Mm.
Thank you.
being a part of your production, I saw your talent.
Aw,
Mm.
thanks,
I
Diane.
enjoy working with you,
Oh,
and
thank
her
you, same.
directions are just so awesome.
I don't know. I just tried to.
No, well, you
Together.
you did a marvelous
Oh,
job.
thank you. You're too kind.
You mentioned submitting it to the rep. I submitted a play to the rep, and hopefully this up for the next cycle. And I haven't heard anything back. And in fact, I mentioned to Leah Saturday night that should I resubmit it? 'Cause I didn't hear anything.
What about the new Detroit theater? Have
I-
you submitted to
Oh,
them yet?
Detroit Public Theater.
Detroit
I
Public.
we sat next to someone from the Detroit Public Theater Saturday. We went to see Covenant with Jesse Boyd
Yeah.
Williams.
Oh, how was it?
It's good. It's
Is
really
it-
good.
How long
Yeah.
is it still
It was
there?
that show was yesterday.
Oh,
Oh,
man,
wow.
Yeah, and I had been trying. We had been
intended
trying to go for the last 3 weeks,
Mhm.
and it was sold out. We were there for
Mhm.
this ticket for this past Saturday night. We usually like to go to the matinee.
Mhm.
I don't like being out at night, but we couldn't get a ticket until that night. But it was a good show.
I wish
They
I
did an
had.
outstanding
I'm sure they
job
did.
of acting.
Jesse, I was awesome. I'm sure he was
Mhm.
fantastic.
I have some videos of some scenes
Oh,
that I could
really?
send you. Yeah.
Oh,
Do you want me
you
to
went
mail-
to you went to the
No,
cinema?
not from Covenant. From
Oh, you
Mix.
talking about
From
from
Mix.
Mix?
Oh yeah, that
Oh,
would be
please
great.
send it to me.
Yeah, that would be great.
Please send
Yeah.
it
Now,
to
is the
me.
email that I've been sending it to you your email
No,
or
that's
your
his
email?
Mine,
email.
Your
mine.
email.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
for the
I can send you some
Yeah.
links.
Yeah,
to
that
the
would be
YouTube.
great.
I think I can't remember if you're in there, Diane. I think you are.
I don't know. I mean, I did it a couple of times with you.
Right, I know.
I know we did it at Maryville. I remember doing
Yeah.
it, but there was another place that we did it, and it was like I can't remember where it was, but I know I did it 3 times with you.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I my play had
Birmingham.
11
Birmingham, that was it.
people in it, and I'm thinking maybe that's why, because it's a big cast. It's just like my cast is 11 people. Grandma Rogers' Neighborhood is what I
Oh,
submitted.
wow.
Oh, awesome.
And